Hello there everybody, Adam Cleary for What Culture Wrestling here, and I just want to say a couple of things, right? Because ever since AEW launched, every time we've said anything about them, we get accused of fanboying a little bit. But incidentally, we get the exact opposite side of the spectrum whenever we try and comment on WWE. People pile in saying we're being overly negative or we actively want them to fail. Now, I could stand here for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and detail all the many ways those are incredibly dumb comments, both of them, but it does kind of feel that the ground is now fertile to make direct comparisons between the two, because you wouldn't be getting these kind of responses if they weren't in direct competition. So that's what I'm going to do with this video, but before I start, a few ground rules. We are talking about AEW versus WWE here and now in 2019, because that is where they are competing on a business level. There's no point talking about all the great things one company might have done in the past or all the great things one company might do in the future, because it's the here and now. That's all that matters. Well, the here and now-ish. Anyway, you'll see what I mean. Anyway, my name is Adam Cleary, and this is AEW versus WWE. Number 10, match quality. Straight up, NXT does not count here. I'm very sorry. AEW is going to be going up against WWE's main roster televised product, not its on-demand developmental show. And on that main roster, WWE has this weird habit of draining the life out of its audience during the week before trying to blow the roof off on a Sunday night. They do these slow, plodding, made-for-TV matches on television before these big pay-per-view prize fights at the pay-per-views. But the problem with that is they don't do it consistently. Styles versus Rollins at Money in the Bank was amazing. Kofi versus Bryan at WrestleMania genuinely felt like the biggest thing in wrestling. But the problem is that since then, they've kind of not really done anything in the ring, either before or after. It's all just a bit meh. But AEW, by contrast, is more diverse, more rich, more expressive, more dynamic. Cody versus Dustin Rhodes was this emotive, blood-soaked masterpiece. Kenny Omega's only just starting to show glimpses of his epic explosiveness, and they actually have a proper tag team division. Now, yes, it might all take a spectacular nosedive once they've got all those hours of television to fill, but in the here and now, I know which product I am enjoying more. Number 9, direction and staging. It's amazing, really, given the absurd amount of money that WWE have to play with in this regard, that we still need to have this conversation. They could have the most dynamic, explosive, amazing-looking stage sets, and everything could be so perfectly done, but it's just never is. The constant camera cuts on television range from the distracting to the downright nauseating. The lack of pyro is just bland and sterile, and that default stage setup they have for 95% of all their shows just makes everything a bit samey. And the thing is, AEW does have a number of growing pains in this area. You can tell that everyone involved is very new at putting on these live shows, but by the same token, you can also tell that they're not new at all. They are very experienced at pro wrestling. Absolutely everything they do, whether or not it works, is designed to make this a more immersive and believable product, right down to the fact they occasionally have different entrance ramps for heels and faces. It's meant to make you buy in to what they're doing. Doesn't always work, of course, and it'll need significant refinement when they get to television, but I'm gonna give this to them as well. Number 8, production. WWE's production is perfect. It is immaculate. It is beyond reproach. You're sitting at home, you do not realize how good their production is, and tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't realize either had I not worked so many goddamn WCPW shows, but everything they do from the bottom to the top is perfectly done. It is 5 hours of television, countless hours of on-demand and social network stuff done, usually live, every single week. You do not appreciate what a feat that is. And yes, of course, they can afford to do that, but they can only afford to do that because they're so good at doing it, they make so much money, if that makes sense. In fact, the only way you can criticize WWE in this regard is to say it is occasionally too perfect. And you can also sort of excuse AEW's flaws in this regard because, as I say, they're very new at it, but doesn't matter. WWE wipe the floor with them here. Number 7, commentary. Spoiler, I am not actually giving either side a point in this regard because this is what is known in English football as a bore draw. Both sides are awful. All right, maybe not awful, maybe that's me being a bit unkind, but this is like a 1-1 settled by 2 own goals. Jim Ross's constant contempt for the product he's having to watch, and Michael Cole saying the most asinine shit on every single episode of television. Here comes Bayley, she's got a new attitude, it's the big dog, ready for his championship opportunity. To borrow Miller's gimmick for a second, nobody talks like that. But as bad as that is, AEW also has massive problems, not least of all JR being barely able to mask his hatred for what this business has seemingly devolved into. Like, in the middle of matches, he occasionally buries the action that he is seeing, and I can't believe I'm telling JR how to do commentary, but just don't do that. Oh, I will say though that Excalibur, I actually think, is really good. I hadn't heard him do much until AEW, but he is he's excellent, isn't he? He's refined, he's polished, he puts over the big spots with real enthusiasm, but the guy is, what is he? He's in a freezing cold lake, isn't he, with 2 bricks tied to his feet. Number 6, over stars. Not even close, this one, is it? WWE had Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, and Kofi Kingston as 3 organically over massive stars going into WrestleMania, but they have all since had their shine dulled by really weird booking and the terrible scripts that they get handed. So they do prove that you can definitely get over in WWE, just that it's really hard to stay over in WWE. I mean, look at Braun's last 18 months. Quick head count down the road for you. Cody is universally liked and thus over as the top babyface in the promotion. Kenny Omega is over as its ace. Jon Moxley is over as its dangerous paradigm-shifting disruptor. And the Young Bucks are over as the aces of the tag team division. MJF is over as the most despicably entertaining heel in all of wrestling. Darby Allin is over as a spirited, never-say-die babyface. Jungle Boy is over under the same mentality but with a completely different character. And Luchasaurus, he's over as a 6'5", 65 million year old dinosaur who can do a standing moonsault. He is over as that. Ding. Number 5, storytelling. So on Raw the other week, The Miz and Dolph Ziggler had a very entertaining segment in the ring where they both buried each other's careers and their respective flaws as wrestlers, but all they really did was point out how badly they'd been booked and how badly the angles they were given were. It's the subtle stuff as well, like Seth Rollins beat Baron Corbin repeatedly for the Universal title, and then the Raw after Extreme Rules, they were both in the same match for a championship opportunity. Like, how is that logical? In the same match, Bobby Lashley, another loser the night before, wore a bandage to sell an injury that nobody tried to exploit. I mean, contrast that to what's going on in AEW again. Cody antagonized Shawn Spears into a heinous attack with what appeared to be just a throwaway line, but is actually incredibly rich in their respective backstories throughout their entire careers. And meanwhile, Spears has got all this tension with MJF bubbling under the surface. Like, so that's that and that, but it's rich, interwoven storytelling. It's really good. You want this shared universe stuff where everything feels like it's part of the same storyline, but also at the same time gets its own chance in its own spotlight. And WWE just don't know how to do that. They either bundle everything in together where it doesn't make sense, or they just separate it off to the point where you feel like you're watching an entirely different show. Like, case in point, the best story they've done in ages was Kofi's leading into WrestleMania, and that was largely an accident. Ooh. Number 4, music. Yeah, straight up, none of AEW's themes are really all that good. Oh, they like the Bucks have a bit of a banger. Sure, Hangman Page's is pretty good, and Kenny Omega's is like, boom, it's quite impressive, but doesn't really work at those kind of shows. And even if it did, it's always too low in the mix. But anyway, I digress. WWE still produce banger after tune, after ditty, after bop, after wow for all of their stars. Just look at the last few years alone. Like, I had to write them down because there was that many. Baron Corbin got a really good one. Ember Moon got a really good one. Aleister Black's got a great one. Matt Riddle, Bugenhagen. It's just, Christ, Bobby Roode even became a living meme. So good was his entrance theme. Ba-ding! Number 3, accessibility. Bit of a weird one, this, because strangely, after AEW burst into life in the mainstream, its pre-pay-per-view hype, the thing it's kind of having to replace its television package at present, is splintered between multiple YouTube channels. You've got the official one, which is Being the Elite, but you've also got the Nightmare Family, which is run by Cody, and things sometimes get announced on one or get announced on the other, even though people aren't definitely watching both of them at the same time. It's a little bit confusing. Then there's the differing pricing structure of its pay-per-views. Like right here in the UK, we had to buy Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen on Fight TV, which, as well as being an SEO nightmare and really hard for me to say all in one take, feels a little bit unfair given that the US largely got them for free. And I know a lot of you are going to shout at me because they've just updated it, it doesn't work on certain platforms and they're still trying to fix all the stuff that's wrong with it, but the WWE Network is usually a universally priced bargain. Everybody can get it, everybody can navigate it, even if the search function is a bit weird, but the amount of stuff you get on there for $9.99 is insane. It is untouchable. Bang. Number 2, the diversity of the in-ring product. Okay, so WWE has a set style of sports entertainment, and to prove this, just think about Ricochet. Think of the freedom he was given in NXT. Think of that absolute classic he had in Phoenix against Johnny Gargano, and then think of all the stuff he's done on TV, on Raw, since. It hasn't come anywhere near that. The company is absolutely capable of putting on an incredible in-ring product, and we do occasionally see that on a number of its pay-per-views, but by and large there is just certain styles and certain speeds that they do not want their performers to do in a WWE ring. Now, we can have a separate conversation entirely about whether or not that's a good idea, because you do kind of protect people in the long run, but that aside, AEW's very calling card is its diversity and its expression. Guys get dropped on their heads, guys get driven through barbed wire, guys twerk their asses with reckless abandon. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's brutal, sometimes it's flippy. There is something for absolutely everybody on those shows. You might hate 2 or 3 of the matches. It might be everything you despise about this business, but there will be one along sooner or later that you fall in love with. It's fresh, it's exciting, it's character driven. There is something for everyone. 3 shows in and they already comfortably beat WWE in this regard. Now, I will say, if we were including NXT in this, it would be an awful lot closer. Might even go the other way, but we're not, so. Number 1, momentum. Now, alright, you might think this one is an open and shut case, given that AEW is the hot new promotion in town and we can't stop riding their dicks, but it's considerably more complicated than that, isn't it? Like, the hype surrounding this company is not what it was the morning after All In. We've had the chair shot controversy from Fyter Fest. We've had the embarrassing buy-in. We've had a weird and overlong and weirdly booked Fight for the Fallen. We've had Hangman Page failing to project himself as a babyface star. We've had, as a result, a very weird looking main event for their biggest ever show on the horizon. It's just, they exploded into life, didn't they? But they've kind of stumbled a bit since. But still, All Out does look set to be a spectacular night of hate-filled and exciting professional wrestling. It's got a weird main event, yes, but that's just part of a card that looks like it's going to be really good. Meanwhile, SummerSlam, which only has 1 week of television still to go at the time of recording, is a bit underwhelming. Lesnar versus Seth is a rematch. Becky versus Natalya is fresh but uninspiring. Kofi versus Randy is intriguing, yes, but hardly exciting. And then there's Shane McMahon again. There is literally only Bray Wyatt that's getting any pulses racing on that card. Now, SummerSlam might end up being a better show than All Out, given the talent they've got at their disposal and the fact it's WWE's second biggest show of the year. It would not surprise me one bit if loads more people preferred that to what AEW end up offering us. But ask yourself, in the here and now, what are you more excited to see? Because for me, it's that. For you, I don't know, maybe that. Wakanda forever. So, there you go then. That might look fairly comprehensive, but it does kind of tell a picture of exactly where these two companies are, aren't you? WWE's points were all in its slick production, its quality of broadcasting, whereas AEW's were largely with their in-ring product. So if you like pro wrestling, you're gonna love AEW. If you like sports entertainment, you're gonna like WWE. Could have just said that at the start, I guess. But anyway, what the hell, filled in 10 minutes, didn't it? Let me know what you make of it all in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam Cleary. Get me on Twitter, why not, at Adam Cleary. And I'll see you soon. Or later. Or, yeah, whenever.